All right, so you just discovered the pro-metabolic diet, or you've been introduced to the work of Dr. Ray Peat. Well, a big issue that people have when they switch to this style of eating is that they get fat pretty quickly. But luckily, I'm going to tell you how to apply this from the start without getting fat, and how to actually use this in the way that it's designed to be pro-metabolic, to increase the metabolism so you don't have to deal with these side effects as excessive fat gain. Now, this is the style of eating I really use to lose the most of my weight and keep it off. I used to be over 300 pounds, and as I got leaner and leaner, I noticed that I had to rely a lot on pro-metabolic principles in order to keep my body weight at a reasonable level and really not suffer through with all the excessive dieting. Now, if you do need help applying this and you need a little bit more personalized implementation, I do have one-on-one coaching down below, and I have a few slots open for the rest of this year, as well as consultations available. All right, so let's get into it. Now, there's a few things I want to keep in mind here is that when you first come to this way of eating, it's absolutely delicious. There's lots of good food. It's hyper palatable, and it's very easy to think whenever you begin reading or you just read the highlights and stuff that, hey, I need to eat a lot to boost my metabolism, because some people think that they need to force feed to increase the metabolism and eat more food. Well, that's not the case. I really don't want you to eat an excessive amount of food. It's not going to help improve the metabolism just by eating in a calorie surplus. I want you to instead find your energy balance and just stay there. Your maintenance calories, whatever your body weight is right now, figure out what those calories are and eat that amount, okay? Now, when you dive deeper into a lot of the Ray Peat sphere of health, you're gonna find a lot of milk and orange juice, carrot salads, and gelatin and stuff. That's just an overarching idea. It doesn't have to be what you eat. I want you to find what works best for you. And I will say that a lot of people, when they comes to body composition, don't do well doing milk and orange juice all the time. Usually you want to be very tactical and strategic with that, and you don't want to drink the bucket loads of it. You want to have a very controlled amount of this. And I will say, when it comes to orange juice, eat it with meals. Don't just, sip on orange juice all day long. That's not something that you really want to keep doing all the time. Yes, it's good for you, it's healthy for you, but all day long, you don't really need that IV drip of glucose. And in addition to milk, a lot of people I still see, they do have problems with milk when it comes to digestion and the ability to tolerate it. So if you do struggle with milk, start out very slow. There's a few studies of you being able to start with a low amount of milk and working your way up if you are having issues. That's something I've done myself. I've struggled with milk for some time, but I now have been able to drink about 4 liters a day. But it was not like that at the beginning. So take your time when you introduce dairy back into your diet. As a lot of people I've noticed have just avoided dairy for a long time, as that has been the current health ideology for some time. Now, it is important to note when you do add dairy and milk, you don't need the whole milk. There's been a lot of people, if you've seen, who've gained a ton of weight and they're like, this doesn't work for me, this style of eating. It's because they're sitting around all day and just drinking whole milk and orange juice all day long. That is a recipe to get fat, especially when you are not using that energy and those calories towards something, whether it be, thinking, creativity, or diet and exercise, okay? Next is the idea around sugar, and it's a very hard subject because people think that sugar is terrible for you. It's really not. Your body does run on glucose, and it is great for your cells. And the thing is that people will think sugar, and they think, oh my God, I'm going to eat 100 cookies, cakes, and pastries all day, or I'm going to slam white sugars and Coca-Colas all day long. That's not the idea of it. That white sugar is temporary therapeutic. That's something that Pete would say. And the idea is that you wanted to get a majority of your sugars from actual true carb sources, coming from fruit mainly. That's going to be the main goal. In addition, you can have your root vegetables, and I've seen people do better just not slamming a ton of juice, okay? So that's the idea, is that you want to have more fruit and root vegetables for the sugars. And if you do have the occasional bit of cane sugar, just for therapeutic, if you need that ability to have a Coca-Cola before you go for a run or before a deep work session, that's fine. But to do that all day long, it's not the idea to eat 1,000 grams of sugar a day. Okay, so get that out of your mind to make sure that it fits your calories. Now, the next thing comes towards your diet setup. Now, I mentioned that you did want to keep your calories in check, but in addition to your macro setup, I think that you need to have a little bit of structure as well before you go off the guardrails. Protein definitely needs to be about medium to high, around 0.6 to 0.8 grams, and you don't have to get it all from the oysters and the liver and the gelatins and those cuts of meats. Just eat some relatively lean meats. I think that ground beef is one of the best things you can have, or steak. That's one of the best things you can do in this style of eating. Now, fat intake, you do want to keep this relatively low, especially if you are coming from a low carb background, as the idea here is that you're really wanting to switch your body from being in that fatty acid oxidation state all the time, burning fat for fuel, to being more into glucose oxidation. That means that you do want to have in your meals to be favoring more towards the glucose burning. So that means that your fat intake needs to be relatively low as you are making this switch. And over time, you can push the carbohydrates more. It's something that I've done myself and helped other people do to increase the amount of carbohydrates over time. But at the beginning, you want to be pretty controlled with this and not go overboard all up from the front. Now, finally, there's been some misconception of that you are going to go on this style of eating, you're not going to exercise, you're going to eat carbs all day, and you're going to have a great metabolism and burn body fat. That's not the case. You still need to get out there. You still need to at least lift some weights and do concentric failure. You don't need to do anything, crazy high volume or anything. You don't really need to go run or exercise, but I do urge that you get out, start walking, start just moving your body, do some light yoga, do exercise that makes you stimulate life, as that's a saying, is that you don't really want to do this exhaustive exercise, which is was bad about it and does actually, have some negative effects on the body and the physiology, but ultimately exercise is good for you. And if you are lifting weights, you are building up your muscle mass, and this diet does put you into a highly anabolic state. But in addition, you just want to keep moving the body, keep putting life into it, charge it with life force, and get all of it moving, okay? Now, those are the main things, just keep your calories in check. You don't really need to slam the milk and orange juice. You want to make sure that you're having low-fat dairy. Don't really force feed to boost the metabolism, and have your macros to be more lower fat when it comes to adding this in. And for your sugar sources, make sure to get it from fruit and root vegetables. Over time, as you begin to apply this and it starts to work for you, you'll notice that you're having, consistent body heat, and you're consistently feeling good, and you're feeling happy and healthy. That's when the fat loss really comes, and that's when you're able to maintain your body weight on a little bit higher of calories. All right. So if you have other questions, go to put in the comment down below, and I'll make sure to respond to you for this one. I'm just trying to help you out here of, avoiding the inevitable Pete 20, and don't want that to happen to you. All right. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.